Welcome to episode 104 of The Endless Stream. I'm Aidan, and this week I am joined by Brian. We are two artists, illustrators, filmmakers, and all-round shit talkers, and each week we take some of the endless stream of content brought to you through Netflix, Disney, Hulu, YouTube, Spotify, Amazon. Wherever you get your content, we take a chunk of it, we watch it, and we talk about it. There was no episode last week, folks. Apologies. This is down to the fact that I have moved to Chicago for the next 3.5 to 4 months. So I was on an airplane. Kevin was moving house. Brian was sick. We tried to get together to record the episode, but unfortunately it just didn't happen before I had to pack a bag and get on a plane. This week, Brian and I talk about me moving over here, my first week over here. We talk about the new Resident Evil remake. We talk about C2E2. We talk about any and all nerd stuff that we can come up with. And yeah, we have a good old chat. Again, sorry for the missed episode. And sorry that this is coming to you a little later than its usual Monday 6 o'clock GMT release. I'm still getting to grips with the time difference here. So by the time I'm awake, I've lost a good chunk of the day in Ireland time anyway. So we're going to try and find a regular release time, get us into a bit of a rhythm with it. Right now it is 20 to 10 on Monday, April 3rd. So it's a little late, but it's still a Monday release. So all of that being said, head over to Instagram at The Endless Cast. Give us a follow. We put up art to go with each episode. Send us an email at theendlesscast@gmail.com. Both Instagram and email are a great way to tell us that we should be watching something, tell us you disagree with something, just get in touch in general. And if you could, please go to iTunes and Spotify, rate, review, like, subscribe. All those good things really help us out. But now, let's get into the episode. Oh no, hold on, what's this doing? Why is it? Sorry, Scott was trying to screen record there for a second. So I'm in Chicago, and I got here on Monday, and that's why we missed an episode, dear listener.
Well, I was sick on the weekend as well. Wasn't entirely that.
It was a conflagrance of nonsenses that led to. We actually really did try to get an episode recorded, but then it just turned into wasn't going to happen, and I think we all felt we had justifiable excuses. So shut up.
Any culture shock yet?
No, I don't think
culture
so.
Shock?
I don't think so. Not in a negative way, but in a like watch this happen kind of like
different kind of way. Yeah.
Like Chris pointed out, like just try and keep a running tally of every time someone goes, "Let's go," either yelling at something they want to do or they're about to do or sport. Right. And the bar we were in yesterday, there was a woman just perched up on the bar watching the Miami game. And it was part of the Final Four, and she was like, "Come on, Miami, let's go!" And it's like, I think I counted 15 yellings of "let's go," followed by apologies to everyone around her. And she's wearing a Miami shirt, and there was 3 screens playing this Miami game, and the bar had the beautiful idea to put on Ace Ventura, who are investigating the Miami Dolphins. Now I say the bar, I don't know, I guess you have to choose to put that channel on.
I tried to watch that recently, and I can't believe I ever laughed at it. I was very young.
Really?
But it's very...
I was watching it laughing my ass off.
Oh God.
I am aware of the
it's like, very slapstick
transphobic.
Isn't not even the transphobic. Like, I mean, I kind of knew that had aged badly, you know.
Yeah.
But just the style of it, it's not even slapstick. It's just kind of
Looney Tunes. It's
kind of madcap, Looney Tunes. Just sort of, it's like, this is, but not even because a couple of days ago I watched Gremlins, and that's fucking bonkers, but it's crazy. Yeah. Like that's nuts. That film is fucking nuts. But
I only saw Gremlins once because I had seen Gremlins 2 first on RTE, which is always on. Yeah. And then when I watched Gremlins,
I think I'd seen
it was genuinely scary. And I was like,
I think I'd seen a bit of the first one first, and then somebody was like, absolutely not, and turned it off. And then I saw the second one in full, and then went back to the first one. And then watching the first one, I was kind of like, this is like, there's a lot of menace and kind of peril in it, but it's also very, very silly.
there's the woman tells the story at one point about her father trying to make a nice Christmas for her.
Insane.
And
I had it on in the background, and Phoebe Cates is talking, and she just brings it up out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I could just sense the shift, so I tuned back in from what I was doing. I was like, I don't remember where this story's going. And then I was like, where is this story going? And yeah,
no, that's the one that traumatized me.
Yeah, her dad dresses up as Santa and gets stuck in the chimney and dies.
And they don't find him for weeks, and then they find him dressed as Santa, and she thinks
he's been abandoned. She's been abandoned at Christmas, and she just mentions it's sort of they kind of run from Christmas a dangerous situation, and she just starts saying this. It's like, what the fuck?
It's so dark, and the monsters were already scary, and that was so upsetting to me that I never went back. Like, I've got to have been 10. I've got to have been like, and I just went, you know what? Because then I watched Gremlins 2, and there is that moment where she goes, this is like Arbor Day all over it, and she starts telling a story that's stupid, spoofing the first one, and it's like, what the fuck happened? But who decided the second one of these movies is going to be Hot Shots? It's the Key and Peele sketch.
It really is. Like, it's I love the freeze frame, and it's like every single one of these ideas made it into the film.
It's bad shit. I kind of want to watch the first one again now that you say it.
Dude, it's on. I can't remember even what I watched it on, but it's on Netflix or Prime or maybe Disney. I'm not sure. I can't even remember what platform it's on. But I watched it literally 3 or 4 days ago, and I much preferred it to Ace Ventura, which introduced. I mean, I know Carrie was around a little bit before that, but it kind of introduced the world at large to Carrie, and I remember just laughing at that so much, and just watching it now, and I'm kind of like,
I don't know. Like, I mean, I suppose you're right. I was watching it on like the subtitles were on in the bar, like the sport was playing, and I was watching. Like, I was not watching the sport. I was watching Ace Ventura, and I was just like, the guys, like, I was laughing at bits that I knew I wanted to laugh at, but I was just marveling at his physicality because I had forgotten just how
he's very animated.
Amazing he and When Nature Calls happened, they put that on afterwards. It's the second one. Like, it just whatever. There was a marathon, and there's a scene I was watching where, like, the chief of whatever tribe they're talking to is talking to his assistant, and Ace is behind him, just like fucking shit up, just going nuts, and he does. Sorry. He's fucking shit up, and he just does this like little hop off the altar, lands down, and comes up and back to his face.
I remember
just as the chief's head turns, and it's perfect timing. Like, you could not. You'd believe somebody keyed it out and animated that way, because it's perfect. That little like anticipation up into the overshoot, down into the settle, just as your man's head turns around to see him. I don't know how many times they did it, but I watched it and went, that is insane. I'm going to have to watch that film again. And then there was the cry. The animated, like, even when he crashes the Jeep into the parking lot and does the like a glove thing, it was so funny. It's kind of it works. It still works, but it's a little time capsule as well. The opening sequence that's like spoofing Cliffhanger, where they find him up the mountains, and that's another movie that, like, Sylvester Stallone failing to rescue that climber in the opening of Cliffhanger was like a tone set for me that was like, I didn't expect Sylvester not to, but he saves people. Yeah, he lost, and inside of 90 seconds, and in such a horrific, like, falling out of the sky kind of way. Like, it was like, oh, there's darkness in the world.
How many years later was When Nature Calls?
After Ace Ventura?
Yeah.
A year, 2, maybe. Why? Well, not why. But
I saw Pet Detective on VHS. And like I said, loved it, watched it multiple times. I saw When Nature Calls in the cinema and hated it.
Oh, wow, okay.
I think I laughed at the rhino bit. That was about it. I hated it. And it's funny that I think even then I probably still found the first one funny.
A year, 94 to 95.
That's crazy because I probably still would have found the first one funny, and then, my humor. I mean, it's also just a bad film. It could just be that, but it's a bad film. It's terrible. Just remember not finding the sequel funny.
Okay.
And that's watching in the cinema.
I don't know. That scene with the fight and the guy throws the spears in his legs. I know they're trailer highlights, but I love them. Like I gotta watch them again and tell you, like, oh yeah, I'm remembering highlights, and I'm not actually sitting down in a focused fashion to watch this narrative unfold and getting bored by the fact that, like, that doesn't make sense and this detective thing isn't right and that bad guys. Yeah, like, I'm sure, but like, of that same era, like Dracula Dead and Loving It was on a lot. I love that. Like Mel Brooks and Robin Hood Men in Tights. And no, see, this is where we might be very different people.
Men in Tights, I haven't watched in a while, but I remember finding it funny, but not.
Okay, you didn't like Dracula?
Leslie Nielsen stopped making funny films, unfortunately, I would say.
After Dracula Dead and Loving It?
No, long before.
No. I don't know.
I say that as somebody who loves Leslie Nielsen.
Yeah. I loved that movie, and then there was like one he did that was like an Exorcist spoof and a few things after that. Like he did a Bond spoof and he did a Fugitive spoof, and those three I was like, no, I'm not into these. But Dracula, I liked it. I had the Mel Brooks thing. I don't know. I can try and give you like some of the like things we've done since we've got here.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's hear it.
So let's give you the journey getting here. Okay. I'll give you the whole story. Now, there's no. So what? It was a fun weekend, but it was a really, really busy weekend, and then I had a flight over, which was 8 hours, which is grand. I'm pretty good on like long flights because I'll either sleep really easily. Like I was 2 hours in the air before
it's kind of a sweet spot with flights. 2 hours is okay. 8 hours is okay because you just, well, kind of my limited experience, but I sort of switch off. But anything in between is like, this is too long. I want to get off.
Most like European destinations, I can more or less be asleep the entire flight. And in the case of this one, like I sat down on the plane and was asleep till 2.5 hours into the flight. I just woke up and I was in the air. We did the whole American pre-clearance thing at the airport thing as well. They're kind of curious about that B2 visa, because they're like, how long are you going to be here? Because it's not the SD, it's not the maximum 90 days thing. Because it's up to 6 months, and I got a little bit of a grilling on like, why are you using this and not the SD? And it's like, oh, I'm staying longer than 3 months. And it's like, when are you leaving? July 14th. It's like, oh, 4 months. What are you working here? I'm like, no, I am not. How much do you plan to spend every month? And I was like,
I don't get what the issue is if you've applied for the thing and you've got it already,
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because like if I start to get paranoid, but like, if I wanted to get into the country and hide.
If you're planning to do anything you're not supposed to be doing, it's not like you're going to fucking tell them then at an interview stage.
If I was planning to just come to the country and stay here, why would I go to the fucking embassy and queue up for 4 hours in the morning and go through the interview process and get the visa and have to go and collect my passport from an airport? Like I could have just done the SD thing and flown over on a Monday,
Yeah, and then just lay low if that was your intention.
Yeah, I'm not. I want to build a happy, healthy relationship with American travel. I'm delighted to have that visa, but it was funny that like how much do you plan to spend this each month? And I'm calling this first week the onboarding week because there's a lot of money being spent, and I'm like, oh. Like, I bought a ham sandwich yesterday and it was $11. It's like,
what?
That was and a bottle of water for $5, and then you put tax on both of them. Was it a
basic sandwich or was it good? Was it fancy?
No, it was at an event so they could screw you.
Okay.
But it was a like off a freezer rack or a fridge rack. Right. It was an event sandwich, but like $11. And you know, I get panicky, especially as I don't have the job anymore. But like, I'll be fine. You know, I'm just like we went and so Monday we got here. Pretty tired, and Chris, who actually listens to this. Hi, Chris.
Hello, Chris.
Chris's house is great. The room he put me in has this. The room he put me in has this heater in, or the room he prepared for me very nicely has this heater in it, but it blows hot air around the house for like Chris. 10 to 20 minutes solid. 10 to 20 minutes every hour. So that first night I just didn't get any sleep because I don't know, even if it had been blowing persistently, I'd have got like used to it, but it would just stop for an hour and then go and then start blowing through the house. So it kept waking me up. So I moved downstairs and I got this little apartment unit that is like all to myself, and it's lovely. And there's nothing in it furniture wise. So that led to, we went thrifting for couches and furnitures and things like that. And it was good fun. We found this place called the Brown Elephant. And we looked at a bunch of items. Chris needed one or two things, and we like were going around going, okay. I was doing the maths, and I was like, okay, that's 180, that's 50, that's 75, that's whatever.
They say math over there. You're gonna have to adjust to that.
Culture shock.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, about $500, and then we went and talked to the guy, and like got a nice little chat on with him. They have this old like architect's draftsman's desk that looked beautiful, and we chit-chatted about that a little bit first, and they had to restore it a little bit, or a customer brought in something to fix it up a little bit, and then we went around and did the maths, and he was like, it's $410, and it's like, I'm bad at math. And he was like, and you guys are so sweet, we'll give it to you for $300 and we'll cut the city taxes off it.
Awesome.
And then I was like, I had this spatula I wanted because Chris doesn't have a spatula. It was a $1 spatula. I said, oh, don't forget the spatula. And he went, it's a gift from the store. Chris was flipping eggs with like a wooden spatula. You know, those ones that are, it's too thick to flip eggs if you ask me. So
okay.
I got a spatula. So we got to arrange that to be delivered. I went looking for a gym as well. And that wasn't hard, but it was a bit of research because there's lots of gyms in the area, but I guess these are, Chris was sort of saying, there's a lot of old industrial buildings here as well, so it lends itself to CrossFit halls.
Yeah.
So a couple of racks of like lifting, a couple of squat racks, bunch of Olympic bars, big empty area with like a sleds for pushing and stuff. And I'm after a pretty traditional weights room. Mm-hmm. And so you got like your Planet Fitnesses and your X Fitness places like that. And it's like joining fee of $150, $200 a month membership, or like it was, and a year-long contract. And it took me a minute to find the place that was none of your fucking joining fee contract bullshit. It's €50 a month or $50 a month. It's a fucking weights room. The logo is like a bodybuilder bending a bar around his neck type of thing, you know, like, so it's like, it's the attitude I like in gym spaces, which is just like, just lift the fucking thing, you know, rather than like your lifestyle is being displayed to you in low lit, floral bike Peloton rooms. Like, just so rather than like $100 to $180 a month, I got a place that had a 3-month package for $150, no joining fee, just hand them the cash, got your membership card. It's like a 35 to 40 minute walk from here, which is grand. There's a little, like, it used to be a rail track, but they've like laid flowers and shit, or laid grass and stuff on it now, so it's like a walking and cycling track, and kind of goes pretty nice. Near. And we went and got a bike there day before yesterday anyway, so I've got a bike to tool down there now, and that's a 10-minute cycle, which is great. The bike place was fun as well. The guy in there loves bikes and is very enthusiastic talker, like a guy in his 60s, and like anything you say, he's just like, oh, I like that, you've got a great bike, this is great, yeah, like, I love that, we'll switch out the stem, love those grips, move that hand, like, he just very, very like buzzy, chatty guy. You'd be there forever talking to him about whatever. And so Chris has a bike, but he was just like, he wanted a second one for the house for, you know, tenants and friends and stuff like that. So I was the excuse, but he was, your man was talking to another customer and saw Chris looking at this like matte black fixie thing. And when Chris was like, oh yeah, I'm just looking for a new whatever for the house. And he went, well, how about this one? He went straight to trying to sell him the one that he had seen him look at. It was like very, very observant salesman. Mm-hmm. You know, he was talking to another customer, but he was like, let's sell this guy on the $500 bike. But we gave that one a miss, because, you know, you don't need a $500 bike. Brought us into the basement, dug out this old orange thing. Beautiful little lightweight. I like it a lot. Basically, it had the like drop handles, and I was like, look, I'll die. Can we switch those out? Like I'm clumsy walking around, and I can ride a bike, but like if I have to like do those suicide grip things where you're like under the fucking bar to get at the brakes, I'll die head first on an American road. And like when I did get on the bike, I went outside and just started cycling, and then went, I'm on the wrong side of the road, and had to stop and go to crosswalk. Like just out of instinct, I was like, why are these cars coming towards you? But yeah, it was fun. And it was orange with a white saddle and white cabling. And I went, sure, you're one colour away from an Irish flag there. And he went, I can switch those out for green grips. So I'm riding around in a little tricolour. Nice. And it's a subtle tricolour with being too nationalist. I went to a place called Cole's then on Wednesday night, which has an open mic in the back of it, a little dive bar thing. I really wanted to go to one open mic. Like I've got this spreadsheet of like all the open mics, or a list of open mics in Chicago, and there's like 5 or 6 every night, which is great, which is what I wanted, because Dublin is great, but like there's the Circle sessions in the International, and then there's one in the basement. Those two only recently came on. Well, Circle sessions has been there for a while, and then Giggles every 2 weeks. So there's like 3 things. Giggles is every 2 weeks, and you can show up and sign up for those, but it's pretty limited in Dublin, you know. And there are so many other shows, but you got to email them or send them Instagram messages and hope they pick you, and they'll give you a date in May, you know, which is great. But part of this idea of the open mic in Chicago is it's intensive. You know, I want to go as many nights a week as I can to get reps, basically. But I went to the one in Coles first to just go, what's the level here? Am I jumping in? Yeah. What's the level here? And just to get a sense of the vibe and stuff. And yeah, I'm good. I'm good. You know, like there is the full gamut of, you know, ability on display, and it's like I'll happily sit in the middle there. And it's 4-minute sets in that place. And it's like I'm used to 5 to 10 anyway, so I'll try and write some new material over the weekend, because, well, it's even I want to repurpose some of the Irish stuff, because like I can't say Dun Laoghaire and expect any recognition. Or if I do, I need to write it in such a way that, like, I have a line that calls out Dun Laoghaire, and it's like I need to find the most elegant way to set that up so they understand, you know, the bit sort of puts the poshness of Dun Laoghaire in contrast with the poshness of Dalkey. So I need to, you know, you need to know that Dalkey is where Bono and Enya and whatever the fuck live, and so I got to look at how I've got that sentence structured in such a way that I give them the context they need for it to be funny.
Do you know when you're going to do that?
Wednesday.
Nice.
Wednesday's the next Coles one, so I'll go up for that for sure. And then I'm just going to start digging into the list, because as I said, there's one every night. Walgreens is funny. Everything is locked in little cubbies, and you have to press a button and somebody comes and opens the thing. And like, I'm glad I noticed that before I did that for the toothpaste, because then I would have needed her to come back for the toothbrush, for the hair gel, for the deodorant, for the razor blades. So I basically walked the shop first and found out everything I wanted, and then
Where is
a
everything?
little bell,
Yeah.
and then go, can we do a little wander? And this woman had to come around and open all of these little cubbies, and I don't know if it's...
That's bizarre.
Yeah, I was talking to Shannon, who is an American friend, and I was like, what's the crack with that? Is that an indication of, like, the financial status of the area, that there's a lot of shoplifting, or what is that? Like, would that happen in other places? And she was like, that's all Walgreens, because the amount of stuff that people will steal to make drugs with, that involved in, like, meth production. I'm like, okay, that's mad. I don't know that that's 100% the idea, but, like, it's an odd system nonetheless.
You can see why people would just order all their shopping online rather than do that kind of experience.
Yeah.
It's essentially having a personal shopper just to buy toiletries.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I just went to the wrong place. Maybe I should just be going to... I don't know if
Target.
I saw stuff locked up. Yeah, I've been to Target. I went to a Target. And I went to a Home Depot. And I was laughing.
All the cultural touch points.
No, that's it. Like, somebody was like, send me photos of what you're seeing in Chicago. And it's like, I have seen Target. I have seen Home Depot. I found a bike shop. Chris kind of laughed at that as well, where he was like, you're kind of just doing chores, but it goes back to the other thing. It's like, I'm not here to tourist.
Yeah,
I don't want a picture at the Bean. I do want a picture at the Bean,
you
but like, I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not.
You're going to get a picture at the Bean, obviously.
I'm going to get a picture of the Bean. You gotta get it. But like, when you go on holidays anywhere, you're dumped into the tourist area, and it's lovely and aesthetic and overpriced and whatever. And like, even we went to Lisbon earlier in the month, and like, it's like, oh, it's lovely, it's marvelous, but like, I didn't go out to where people live or where people work or whatever. It was just this beautiful central part of the city. So with this, here I am. It's like, I'm in a nice area, and I think it's a pretty like it's a pretty popular area, but it's not like the tourist aesthetic thing. I'm not seeing.
Yeah.
I don't know what you see as a tourist in Chicago even, but like, I'm trying to do the suburban domestic. I'm trying to think of what else. Got some frames, hang up some art, try and make this place a little less serial killer in the basement. It is a bit serial killer. Yeah, I can't get Jemison into people's ears. They want to hear Jameson. A couple of times I've ordered it. Like, one in particular, he was like, I thought you said Jepson. And Jepson is Malort, which is their local... I don't know what you call it. Like, it's... They know it's dog shit, but they also love it. It's like, I don't know, a Buckfast?
We've had this conversation before, haven't we?
Maybe, yeah.
Are you sure? Yeah.
If not on the podcast, definitely in person.
Yeah.
But like, I kind of categorized it as like, this is a thing that's made here. It's really toxic. It's a bit rough. It's here. People are aware of it. It's not going to be an ever-present thing. But like, I've heard a lot of Malort talk since I got here. But basically, like, I'm kind of surprised that it's as present as it is. Like, there's a lot of like, give them a shot of Malorts, or, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't expect it to be. I don't want to say I thought it was a bit of a joke booze, but I didn't think it was something you'd be pushing on people, and like, they seem to be. I suppose if you got to go away, they'll throw Buckfast in front of you. Not so much in Dublin.
Or any hipster place. I mean, it was massively popular in the Bernard show. That's because they also used to sell it very cheaply.
Yeah.
But even when they raised the price of it, it was still very popular. They used to sell it for like off-license prices, which will tell you a lot about what they knew about running a business. It was $12 in an off-license, and you could buy it for 12. And then when they put the price up, people were like, "That's a fucking rip-off." It's like, you do realize we're selling like shots for €5 or €6. Yeah, it's like, if you want to drink cheap stuff, go to an off license first and drink at home. You've been getting it very cheap for a long time, and like in a sense as well. I mean, it was good for business because in not business, but in terms of making it a place to go and building a crowd. But then also at the same time, I remember that place used to be quite busy with students on, the Tuesday, Thursday nights. And they weren't spending a lot, but at the same time, it's better to have a place a bit lively than kind of, because people walk into an empty place and go, oh no, it's kind of dead, fuck off, let's go somewhere else. Whereas I think you kind of want the NCAD heads, taking ecstasy in the bathroom and not spending any money, because at least the people with money will come in and say, oh, okay, there's people.
There's life here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's fair to say.
I think so. Yeah.
Have I talked enough? I think I rambled for a while.
I wouldn't say rambled.
Today we're going to visit
The Bean.
Not the Bean. Chris's godson, hour outside of the place. So I'm driving. That's one of the things we did this week. Is
fun.
I did a little driving lesson.
What are you driving?
We've mentioned before. It's a Ford
Grand Cadillac.
It's an old police car. It's black and white.
Oh yeah, you told me this. Yeah.
It's very fun. It's really like swimmy on its suspension, so you're going around corners and you got a lot of like
kind of gliding. That's nice.
Like it's grand. Like Chris put me on the insurance. I've got the driver's license. I've got the international driver's license. We just tooled around the local area a little bit to get used to it. It is funny being on the other side of the road and the other side of the car. Got to watch what lanes you're going into. But yeah, and then today, because it's a little longer drive, I asked could I do it just to get some miles under the belt, and it'll get me up on the highway, especially if Chris is going away for a week. Get a little crash course, I guess. Not crash course, but
don't say crash course.
So that's going to be fun, and we're going to see the godson. They're doing Easter stuff, and we're getting manicures.
Awesome.
So that's
why don't you get your feet done at the same time?
That was an option, but I decided against
do that.
it.
Why?
No.
Why? It's fun.
I don't disagree, but I was also like, I would rather have you focus on the shit show that are my fingers.
Just
fix me.
Have them focus on the whole shit show.
Nah, I'll keep my feet wrapped in bandages. Thank you very much.
Your hoofs.
My hoofs, the claws. And then the other thing we did was C2E2, but I can talk about that in a minute. Let's check in with you, Bean. Let's check in with you, Brian.
Bean.
Let's check in with you. The coffee's hitting. Bean. The coffee's hitting. Got a little jar of coffee.
Little cold brew.
Little cold brew, yeah. I just went upstairs and
nice.
Like a third to 2/3 water. And
I had a Cuba Libre last night, but it was a Colonel Libre. I can't remember all the ingredients, but it had a kind of a kefir cola instead of actual cola. I mean, it is cola.
Okay.
It had kefir in it instead of Coca-Cola or Pepsi.
How was that?
It was good, but I liked it. But it was also kind of like drinking a flat Cuba Libre.
Oh right, okay.
But it was good. I liked it.
Couldn't run that kefir through a soda stream beforehand.
Yeah. You see, I think that would be I think that would elevate it, because that's the extra step.
I was,
or a cola kombucha maybe.
I was trying to explain. We walked past a Guinness billboard, like a bus side thing, and it was like two guys going at each other, and it was like surging together, and Chris commented that like he associated the word surge with the pandemic, and two men just coughing at each other looked pretty grim, which is right. But I was like, yeah, and I kind of got into like Guinness is one of the few alcohols I know that's like just keeps adding shit to the process, like I would wager the first time they poured that stout in 1756 or whatever it is, they weren't too worried about a 45-degree angle and a 2-part pour. They just poured the flipping thing, you know? And as it's gone on, they've gotten more and more sort of precious about it. And then that turned into the cans that have the widget at the bottom that releases nitrogen or affects the pressure. And now they have the nitro surge thing. And he was like, he had not heard what this thing is. And it's like a dongle for your Guinness can, like a hockey puck dongle. That it is like a little nitrous cartridge in there that like it pressurizes the pour. That's what it is. Silly. How much different can that pour a Guinness?
But I mean, that's the thing with those kind of products is, you know, you got to find ways to keep it the same, but also have an excuse to keep advertising it, kind of, you know.
Yeah, I suppose.
Make it look like you're adding something new without changing it. We were talking about.
It was funny. We were talking about this to. We were talking about this in the bar we were in last night, and I was talking to, especially trying to explain this to his like Italian friend Jacopo, and like at the end of that, I then was like, it's time to order another drink, and I looked over and I saw a can of Guinness in the fridge, and I went, oh. Chris ultimately went, what the fuck did you think would happen? I was like, I kind of thought this would happen, but I wanted to see it, so I ordered the Guinness, and it's just glass came out, can came out, popped the can. Vertical, just into the glass.
I've thought about this a couple of times. I've seen pictures of pints people have been served in America specifically, and I was like, how offended would they be if I said, "Can I just step behind for a second and show you?"
Yeah,
because
can I teach you how to do this?
Yeah, because you know it actually, you know, you get another Irish person or something in there, they'd be like, "Oh my god."
The man knows how to pour a pint, yeah. And like, it's not like
and just for the stout,
secret
you know,
we're holding on to.
Do what they want with the but you know, it's not hard, and that's the strange thing. Like they
run you through it in 30 seconds in the fucking Guinness storehouse. Everybody gets a go.
When we set up a Starbucks in UCC, the guy came in. I can't remember what his exact title was, but they had their own machine, and it's calibrated a particular way. And he came in and he walked me through the whole thing. I've had reps from Jameson, you know, give me the sales pitch that I'm supposed to give to a customer who's coming in and asking for whiskey. Guinness particularly are very precious about the angle and the appearance and whatever. And it's bizarre that, you know, anywhere they're sold that they haven't come in and taken 30 seconds to say, you hold the glass like this, you pull this quickly, you get it up to here, you slowly straighten it up and let it sit for a couple of
90
seconds
seconds
until it settles a bit, and then you top it up. Yeah. Easy peasy.
Yeah.
And yet.
I kind of like, that was it. I wanted to see what happened when the can got brought out, because part of me was like, just hand me the can.
Yeah, let me pour it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember even like...
I don't have the strongest accent, but detect the accent.
You committed a hate crime right now.
Actually, there's the culture shock thing, is the bar process. I wasn't aware of it, and I keep kind of... I'm not butting up against it at all. It's just like, oh yeah, I have to do this thing. You order a drink, they take your card off you, and it sits behind the bar. Like, they give you the option to either close out immediately or just leave it behind the bar. But they take your card, it sits behind the bar. Every drink gets added to that card, and then at the end of the night, they give you a tally with a space for tip. You write in the tip you want. At this point, they've already given you your card back. They've scanned your details.
Yeah.
So they run all those cards at the end of the night and total up. Rather than just processing each payment as you go, somebody, I guess, has to sit there at the end of the evening and put these through, or at least when they close it out. But it was like, it's kind of funny. No, because I have to write the tip on the receipt, so then they have to go over and process it.
And add that, yeah.
So they've given me the card. They have to go back to that after the fact. It's just an odd little... I mean, it works. I guess it works. It's silly. It's not mandatory. I could order drink by drink and not run a tap, but it's like, if I'm going to be there, I may as well. We went to a gig. Went to see Algiers. They were playing a little venue here. I don't even know where it was. It was the first night I got on a bike here. I think it was the third day we were here, and I genuinely exhausted at that point. Like, I was standing at the back of the loudest gig I've ever been at. And the first one I thought to bring ear protection to, so I was delighted. And I felt my knee sort of buckle, like a little inch drop of like, oh, I am falling asleep. I'm falling asleep standing up.
In a loud venue.
Yeah. But the opening act, I was conscious enough to enjoy, and they were called Party Dozen. It was a drummer and a saxophone player. Do you know these people?
I think so.
I really liked it. It was pretty good. Like it's Australian band, I guess. I think Nick Cave is on something with them. Did a little thing for them. She's playing her saxophone, he's banging away on the drums, and at a certain point she turns it around and the bell is mic'd, and she just is holding it by the bell and just yelling into the bell to sing. And it was like, this class.
Like in Kung Fu Hustle.
I don't remember, I saw it once. Sorry. I need to watch it again. It was funny getting there, because again, I keep laughing at how it feels like playing GTA. Getting like tutorials. Like Chris gets on his little fixie, sticks his hands in his pockets and cycles around the city with no hands. And he's put me on like a Dublin City bike, but it's like electric, which is great. The minute I start pedaling, it's just a little motor kicks in. It's like, oh, this is cool. But like, I'm just cycling around behind him, and he's like, that's this thing over here. That's that. Always remember to power up your... And it's like, I'm getting like, it's pure fucking tutorial level stuff. At one point, somebody opened a car door, and he like, I don't know, whatever glute he flexed to turn 45 degrees around it. But it was like, I was looking at him going, you're out of your goddamn mind cycling around with no hands, like hands in the pockets. And it's
hands in your pockets is dangerous walking. Never mind cycling.
Yeah. I think he's out of his damn gourd, but as long as I didn't do it. Though he nearly got doored twice, basically. And it's like, okay.
Sounds like he was trying to get you doored.
But it's cold. It is cold here still. So when you're whipping around on the bike with bare hands, I guess chilly. But I'd rather have cold hands than a asphalt face. Did you get to see Dungeons and Dragons?
I did.
How is it?
I liked it. It's very much kind of something in the vein of Guardians in the Galaxy, but with a medieval fantasy skin on it. I think it's exactly what it set out to be, right? But a part of me wishes it was a little more kind of authentically fantasy.
Okay.
If you get me.
Yeah.
Sometimes it really does feel like, a heist film cosplaying as fantasy, as opposed to a fantasy film having heist elements in it.
Okay.
Because I'd be all for that, and I'm still kind of for this as well, but it's just kind of rare that we get something like that on the big screen. We've got Lord of the Rings, we had Narnia,
yeah,
and then we've had kind of not much else.
Yeah,
and this has this kind of feels like, I knew it wasn't going to happen.
Warcraft as well. How would it compare to Warcraft?
It's so much better than Warcraft.
Okay, cool.
I knew this wasn't going to happen, but I wouldn't have been surprised if at some point we cut to a table set in present day and it's people doing a campaign.
Right.
Because that's what it felt like.
Okay. Like Lego Movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not so much that it's kind of anachronistic, but there's certain kind of things, but they're kind of justified. Like they've walkie-talkies and things like that. But I don't mind that at all. It's not. Okay. It's a
magical. Yeah.
And I don't even mind that. But the kind of style and vibe of it is very much It really is like if a bunch of people were sitting around a table playing a game, and then we're seeing it kind of how it would appear in, in their minds or whatever, and they're not even really changing kind of how they speak or their mannerisms. And I don't really have a problem with that. Like, I think that's a very deliberate thing it made, but I just wish it was a bit more of a...
Well, that's the stuff that drove me nuts about The Witcher, is The Witcher would be so authentic up to the point where it wasn't. I'm like, why are you doing this? Like, why won't you just embrace your world and be... Like, the song that, like, toss a coin to your Witcher that, like, everybody fucking loved for a minute. Like, it annoyed me because there was a line in there that's like, he puts every elf right back on its shelf. Like, is that an elf on the shelf reference? Like, that's such a weird, specific Christmas elf reference, and I was like, I don't like that. Just like, if you're gonna do the music thing, if you're gonna do the Lord of the Rings music thing, do the fucking thing. Far over the misty. Do the like mean it. Make me care about it because it's real.
But I did like it, and then the third act is good fun. They kind of... It is kind of structured with like very, there's an escape, and then there's kind of one type of heist, and then there's another maybe kind of heist at the end. But the third act, I won't say it was surprising, but it was structured really well. The kind of turns and things it took. Not that it was unpredictable or anything like that, but it was fun, and it was inventive in kind of fun ways. There's things then about it that aren't really specific to this film, but just things like extended CGI action shots. Why? And I was, I'm kind of someone who, I remember when, like back in 2003 or 2005, where people were giving out about too much CGI and stuff. I was like, just shut up. It's here to stay. It's going to get better. It's a tool. It just needs to be kind of utilized correctly. And I still believe that, but there's a scene in it where somebody is escaping and they're transforming into different animals and stuff. That's fine. But then there's a lot of like, it's one thing to have, a CGI animal in the shot. And then it's another when the entire sequence, like the camera move, the background, the creature, it's all CGI.
Yeah. And
there's a point where it's just like, none of it looks bad necessarily, but I'm just so removed from it as a sequence. I'm just kind of counting down. It's like, you can almost like see the budget, ticking down to zero for like how long this shot. And it's like, just why not shoot it for real and just embellish the thing with the effects in places? And there's a point where the character turns into a deer and it doesn't look great, and they stay on it. And it's just, it's this computerized camera move following a CGI element that isn't in the frame. Not particularly well animated. The bits before that are fine. The character's a bird and a mouse before that, and it's CGI, but it's fine, but it just goes on too long. It's just like, it's not even bad, but it's just, it doesn't look like the rest. And I can't imagine anybody is sitting there watching it going like, oh, this is stunning. This is so inventive and so fun. You're just waiting for it to be over,
Yeah. I think about that in like, maybe it's Revenge of the Sith. I feel like they got into the habit of those Star Wars movies of putting Obi-Wan on a fucking animal. Like, there's the scene where he's like going up and down on a fucking CG lizard, and we're supposed to enjoy the environment. And like there were CG technicians in Lucas that are like loving it, and they're like, it's amazing. We're doing great work. This is our job. And it's like I don't care about your camera move and your exquisitely rendered terrain. If it's not, it's the stuff that feels like CG is great. There is that whole video of like, somebody did a great video of like, why does CG suck? Except it doesn't. And they like looked at like Mad Max, and it's like, you don't notice the CG.
You don't notice the good stuff
because like, all of those cars are driving at each other for real, beating shit out of each other. And then the fucking thunderstorm and the mountains and the fucking stuff around it is there to add and create this sort of tension and claustrophobia and stuff. And, they're shooting elements and elements and elements and then compositing them. And it's like, yeah, CG works great. And just use more real elements than...
Yep.
Like, we were watching John Wick 2 last night. John Wick 2? John Wick 3. Chris is doing a little rewatch before he goes and sees 4, so he threw it on. And there's a moment in the sort of opening 20 minutes of that where somebody gets hit by a car and gets up and gets hit by another car. And it's like, the cars are going slow enough. The guy takes the hit well enough that it's like, this guy got hit by cars. And it feels real. And it's like I get a little numb from the action in these John Wick movies at this point. But,
Same.
you know, just watching that moment happen, I'm like, that's cool. The guy took the hits well, and like it felt real and better because it wasn't a little CG body replacement for that 5 seconds, or you know, it's only a couple of fractions of seconds to do those hits, but like, it wasn't the Brad Pitt meet Joe Black rubber man, you know. You know, like Raiders of the Lost Ark is so much better. There's a scene in Raiders where a guy gets out. Indiana Jones gets out of the side of a truck and crawls along the back of it up into a flatbed and then has a fight at the back of the flatbed. And there's a similar scene in, is it Terminator Genesis, which is the one with the most recent one with the lady saving the...
I can't remember.
With the short blonde hair. Very similar scene, you know.
I can't remember.
It wasn't Genesis, was it? Genesis was
the one with Matt Smith, was it?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it was that one.
Actually, what was it? There was Terminator, Judgment Day, Rise of the Machines.
Rise of the Machines, that sounds right.
And then, have we had, what, Salvation?
Genesis. Oh, Salvation, then Genesis, yeah.
Christian Bale, then Genesis, and then the one with...
Arnold's Return. Arnold's Return, and Linda Hamilton back.
Yeah.
Dark Fate.
It's called Dark Fate. That is a very forgettable title. I've watched that film.
Yeah. I liked that film in
I
many
liked
ways.
bits of it. I liked parts of it for sure. Yeah.
But
it worked.
I watched it with the mindset that I have of all of these Terminator movies, which is it's a one-trick roller coaster. You know, it's scary monster chasing you down, escape until you defeat it. And it's like, if there no other Terminator movies existed and this was the Terminator movie, this is class.
Yep.
But we're 5 Terminator movies in at this point, and it's like, I think this is dead. I think we're done, you know? But the point I was going to make is there's a moment in that where she gets out of the cabin of a truck and gets in the back of it, but she kind of like swings out of it and CG somersaults into the back, and it's like, that was supposed to be impressive. And it wasn't, because there's no sense of danger to it. There's no sense of this might be a risky thing for her to do. Whereas whoever that stuntman was, and I should have his name because he gets lauded a lot for the Raiders stuff. He's a guy that they dragged under the truck and all. Yeah, he could fall into the fucking wheel of that truck. It feels real. It's more threatening, you know? It's more impressive because it's barely doable.
You know, you kind of expect an amount of CGI stuff in a big budget blockbuster like this, but I just wish it was utilized a bit more, not sparingly, but just, you know, to kind of flesh things out rather than to be a centerpiece of a set piece, you know. But that said, you know, I did like it. You know, I think that was it. You know, for maybe the first 2 acts, I was kind of liking it, but not loving it, because like I said, I wanted maybe something a bit more of a fantasy, authentically kind of fantasy based, rather than something that feels like it's just fantasy skinned. And I think it's easier to do something like that with science fiction, because for whatever reason, you know, I guess fantasy is rooted in our kind of concept of the medieval past, you know, so it feels a bit more kind of bound by, even though we don't really know what it was like, we've got this kind of preconceived notion, whereas science fiction future stuff can be anything. So yeah, for the first kind of 2 acts, I was kind of maybe liking it, but wishing it was a bit more of a heist movie set in something like a Game of Thrones rather than, what it is. But then, like I said, the third act was just genuinely good, kind of fun, really quick to pace to it, to kind of set their plan for how they're going to do the thing. And it keeps changing, plans failing and they're improvising kind of on the spot. And it was fun. Mm-hmm. Everybody's having a good time.
I'm glad. I want
to. I would still suggest going to see it unless you think it's not your kind of thing. If you think it's not your kind of thing, it's probably not.
No, I think I'm about it because like I remember the first Dungeons and Dragons movie popping up on like the advanced vision shelves in Dunleary, and I was like I want to watch Dungeons and Dragons. Like they made Dungeons and Dragons.
It's very much Guardians of the Galaxy, but yeah. And I prefer two Guardians. I'm not a huge Guardians fan. I
do think that
Pine is a better Chris. He's a very underrated Chris, I believe. I think he's a top 2 Chris.
Top 2 Chris?
It's between Evans and him, I would say.
I think so.
Yeah.
Hemsworth is fine, I guess.
He's great.
Yeah, I've watched like so many of these type of films, but especially like a Dungeons and Dragons, I've been like they've taken swings at them in the past, and it's like know that the spirit is there, that like we recognize that this could be a cool thing. And it's just getting the right ingredients, getting the right marketing, getting the right like production, music budget, and everything. And it's like this could be great, and it looks like they've got the ducks in the row for this. So I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, do check it out.
I want to see Shazam as well.
I was going to check that out, and then your man's having a bit of a social media meltdown, and it's just been kind of cringy.
Is happening? Yeah,
I know. I'm just kind of like,
is he having the meltdown, or is like one interview getting taken out of context? Or
I've seen him do. I don't know. Is it like lives or something? But he's just like, it's not been interviews. It's just him kind of. I think maybe an Insta Live or something, and he's just really pleading with people to go see it. And I was like. And I don't mean in a spiteful way. I just mean like I kind of wanted to see it, and now I'll probably go see something else instead.
The problem is Zach, and I have time for you, and I have time for Shazam. Problem is this movie doesn't look good. This is I see a giant CG dragon tearing through a city, and it's like, well, that's 20 minutes. Like I don't necessarily want to watch that. But I kind of do at the same time. I want to see the film because I enjoyed the first one, but it does feel like I don't know how much of the conversation they've got into like the Rock's influence on these productions of these things. He does seem to be trying to throw the Rock under the bus without explicitly throwing the Rock under the bus.
Good. The Rock sucks.
It doesn't seem like he's had a great influence on this fucking DC universe. If you're gonna be the captain, just get your own ship, I guess. Does that work?
Sure. Yeah.
There's a theater here. I don't know, 10-minute walk away, and it's everything you want from like a little old school American style theater with like the awning over it with the like individual place letters and like little lights running around it. And you go inside and it's painted up nice, and the people are wearing like waistcoats, and there's a bar in there, and the guy had like a little fucking wax mustache and suspenders and like arm garters, and we went in there, got a drink, and they were playing Shazam, so I noted that, and I was like, I might go back for that. But Chris has a kind of regular Tuesday night thing up there. I don't know if they go every Tuesday, but him and a couple of friends go up, and I went as well. And they do like a movie trivia, like a pub quiz, and it was really fun. And the woman who runs it had a very like gentle, relaxed. It wasn't like, hey everybody, let's get into that. Like it wasn't like, it was like she had a little mic. She was like, okay, we're going to do the trivia now. And last week's, it was just a real gentle presentation of it, and like it was 4 rounds rather than like 8 rounds, so you're there for like 90 minutes rather than 4 hours. The runners up get to pick the like pick the specialty subject for one of the rounds the following week. So we were going into the first round was going to be about John Goodman films, and we were just sort of like the day ahead of it, just going, okay, what John Goodman films and characters can we remember? You know, like it's like the line that like there's the line from even like what was his name in The Big Lebowski, full name. I was like, do you have that?
Not the full name, no.
That's the thing, yeah. It's Walter Sobchak. Or he was in a movie called About Time or About Afterlife. It's some movie where he dies and comes back as like he's a fireman who dies and like haunts his wife a bit or something. It's a bit ghosty, but he's got God, and God is played by. It's the last film from a veteran actor who played a sex worker, a princess, and a blind person. So who's that actress? And I got it. I was so amazed when I got it. I was so amazed I was right, but I got it. Veteran Hollywood actress played a sex worker, princess, and a blind person. Last film of a veteran. There's no rush on this.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I'm blanking on the blind.
See, I didn't know the blind either, but the third guy at the table was like, "Oh, I think they played a blind person in this."
And the thing is, I think I've seen this film as well.
So the thing that kind of got me there was like sex worker, veteran Hollywood actress who died. So veteran, like I made me believe, you know, this is a woman in her 70s, 80s, the long career. So sex worker in the 50s? What even is that, you know? There's a few. I know that like The Conversation or Clute, who's it in that plays the it's not. Anyway, I'm getting close to giving you the answer. Those
blanking.
clues weren't it, but
Yeah.
Hepburn, Audrey Hepburn. Breakfast at Tiffany's, sex worker. Roman Holiday, princess, and I don't know the name of the movie where she was a blind person, but I do remember that sort of it was a romance thing. Maybe
That's the thing. I felt like I would have known the blind one, because how many times has a kind of big name actress played a blind character?
Yeah. Is it Wait Until Dark? I don't know. Turns out there's a lot of Audrey Hepburn movies I haven't seen.
She made a few.
Yeah. Yeah, Wait Until Dark. She's blind. But like that's a good deep cut question for John Goodman films, you know, and it's even the way that like the way she leads you into the questions is very good as well. Like this 1993 movie with John Goodman is about a firefighter that this, that, and the other. The person that plays God, and it's like, okay, we're going another direction.
It's not really about John Goodman at all.
It's great, and there were spot prizes, and I got free popcorn. So
Nice.
I might pop over there and see either Shazam or Dungeons and Dragons.
I would see Dungeons and Dragons first.
Okay. I watched Amsterdam on the plane. Did you watch that at all?
I've thought about it a couple of times, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
his last couple of films haven't really done it for me. I'm surprised he's still working, to be honest, as well.
Yeah. But
And I say that as somebody who likes I Heart Huckabees. So
Oh, that's him, is it?
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
I like that.
I saw
He's
the
terrible.
two. American Hustle, Silver Linings Playbook. I didn't watch
American Hustle
Joy.
is so forgettable. It's crazy.
Mm.
There was
I don't
much
get it. I didn't
hype
care for
and
Silver Linings.
Shatter. I did like that, but I didn't see it. I saw it like a year or two later, but I did like it.
I did. I saw it and was like, that's fine. I didn't see what
No.
people were.
America,
Sorry.
I just remember like there was so much, hype around for everybody in in American Hustle, and like as soon as it was gone, nobody ever talked about it ever again.
Amsterdam is John David Washington. Is that his name?
I think so.
Margot Robbie and Christian Bale, sort of post World War One. It's kind of a little noir thing. They get wrapped up in a murder mystery, and they're kind of fun, but there are these like, I don't know, weird, aspirational, romantic throwbacks to their time spent in Amsterdam, and like they just say the word Amsterdam, staring lovingly at each other over and over again. I'm like, this isn't quite what you want it to be. There are some really funny moments. I enjoy what Bale is doing as the like guy who's been so fucked up by, like he's lost his eye and his back's all scarred up and he's wearing a brace, and he's working on facial reconstruction stuff for World War One soldiers and trying to concoct new drugs to deal with pain and stuff. And there's a lot of like, oh, this is working, this is pretty cool, and he just drops, and it's like there's some fun stuff in it. I don't know how I feel about it. I wasn't overjoyed, I wasn't overwhelmed, I wasn't having an amazing time, but there's some fun stuff in it, Margot Robbie is gorgeous. She sort of pops up as just newsflash, guys. It might have been the altitude getting to me, but this Margot Robbie lady.
Who?
Very pretty. Very pretty. She shows up as the nurse tending to them after they get damaged in World War One, and she's like, it's like close-ups, and like she's speaking French as a nurse, and it's like I thought it was Olivia Wilde for a minute, just the angle and the big eyes on her.
Or Zac Efron.
Or Zac Efron, yeah, those are the two. But very pretty people, the three of them: Olivia Wilde, Zac Efron, and Efron's head went weird.
Yeah, he got.
Did you see those photos?
Surgery.
What did he do?
He got like jaw implants or something.
Why did he do that?
They're saying car crash or something. That's to cover up. I don't know. I think he was probably feeling insecure about being, a small, delicate featured man and wanted to look more.
It's very odd. It's very odd. He's putting me in mind of like Mickey Rourke did a bit of that as well. Like, and not like
Mickey Rourke did a lot of it.
He did a lot of it and added in the boxing, which didn't help. Or Ryan O'Neal, that guy. That guy did a lot of stuff as well. And it's like, how can you be so? I don't know. Insecurity is mental health stuff's a fucking bitch. But like you are lauded as one of the most attractive human beings on the planet.
I think he maybe felt like that was, for kind of teenage.
He was doing some wrestling movie and
he also took a lot of steroids as well for Baywatch, so that'll do it too.
Yeah, for Baywatch of all fucking films,
gives you a big head.
That film was fucked up. Like, it's just crap. Just crap. That being said, Alexandra Daddario, pretty lady.
Who?
Alexandra Daddario. Have you heard of her?
No, never heard of her.
She was next to this really pretty person called The Rock.
Have you watched White Lotus?
I haven't. No.
Yeah, I started to, and I just kind of fell off.
Got distracted.
I need to get back to it. I say that because she's in that.
Yes. Yeah, so I'm aware.
You would have.
And Aubrey Plaza's in season 2, and I like Aubrey Plaza. A pretty lady.
It's almost like people in things are attractive.
Are they doing that on purpose?
No, you don't think so, no?
I mean, it would be a bit sort of, I don't know.
It'd be a bit elitist, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it? Yeah, it'd be a bit like, why are they not aiming for like verisimilitude, the reality of life, like an authentic mise-en scene?
It is HBO. What's going on?
Oh, I guess those are the people that go to these fancy
they used
hotels.
To cast normal-looking people. Or make attractive-looking people look normal. Lance
Reddick. Watching John Wick last night.
So sudden.
I know, that's so sad. So I mean, like I would have seen him first in The Wire.
Mm-hmm.
Great. I loved his character in The Wire.
He's fantastic. Yeah.
Great shape and like a stern. He's great. I liked him a lot.
He was fantastic. He was, you know, anytime he showed up, he was always just, and like very often he had like the same sort of energy or presence, you know, but he was always interesting to watch. You know, I remember when he showed up in Lost for like 1 or 2 episodes.
Yeah.
And I think he was an orderly, but you were just kind of like, what's his deal? What's he doing? You know, he was just, he did a lot of voice work. Always very recognizable.
Yeah. He's in Destiny?
He's in Destiny. He was in Horizon. Probably a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
He was great. It's a shame.
Yeah. That's sad to hear.
Shame.
I went to C2E2 yesterday with Chris. So when completely. So I'm gonna manage what version of this I leave in here. But the last show we did as the Bag of Cats in Galway, the guys presented me with tickets to C2E2, which is a big Comic-Con in Chicago, because they knew I was coming here, and they knew when I would be here, and it was a lovely gift. I was delighted to receive it. I've been completely spoiled by the fact that the guys of the third place, as it was at the time, ran a convention in the Tara Towers Hotel in Dublin, 2008, 2009. Actually, it might be 2007, because I think Iron Man was just out.
Iron Man
was in production. We'd seen a trailer. I think we'd seen a trailer for Iron Man.
So that
because Adi Granov
6
was
months
there.
before. Yeah.
Yeah. So Adi Granov was there. Liam Sharp, Jim Lee, Carlos Pacheco. And they obviously got a flat rate to come because they just sat at their tables, queues formed up, and they would just do 10-minute sketches for everybody. And it was just like, it was beautiful. It was just like, can I have this sketch, please? And they was absolutely. And they would just draw me a sketch. And then Iron Man hit, and then the MCU took off, and then comic book artists and comic cons took off. And now it's like everything starts at 150 to 200 for any piece of art. If they're a little less known, maybe $80. The prints are 20, the original art's are 300. And like, I was walking around going, I cannot ask any of you people to do any drawings for me because I do not have $200 to hand you. I do, but I don't have a job to replenish that $200. So yeah, so we went in going, what we're going to do is we are just going to enjoy this event, and it was so fun. It was huge. It was huge. It was, the cosplay was so much fun. Everyone was having a ball, and like we were making sure to like, you know, there's big fancy like Iron Man cosplays, and there's like women looking fucking amazing and like just crazy sexy costumes and stuff. But it was the obscure ones that were really fun. Like Chris spotted like the green guy from Punch Out.
Right.
You know, and it's just a green boxing and a real skinny guy. And those were the ones that we were giving everybody like, you know, people have put so much work into it. It's like, if I want a picture, I ask permission. And like, I think it's good to go, you've done a great job, your costume's amazing. Like, give people the props that they want for having made the thing, you know? And we were making sure especially to find the guy where we spotted like obscure one going, it's great, love it. You know, there was a woman dressed as like Willow from season 2 of the Halloween episode of Willow, I think it was. And all it was like a red shirt and black sort of leathery trousers, but it was kind of subtle. And if you didn't, you know, it could go unnoticed. And I just made a point of going, Willow, right? And she went, yes, absolutely. And it's like, good job. The one we spotted that we laughed a lot at was, we were walking along and I noticed a woman dressed as like the Totally Spies thing. But right next, like it's, you know, kids' cartoon stuff. And it's like, oh, that's fun. She's done a good job there. But right next to her, sitting at a table, just kind of looking a little dejected, but also perfectly in character, was Moss from the IT crowd. And he's the one that we made eye contact with and he just did the little he did the Moss wave, and we went, that's a lovely Tinettenba, and we walked on, you know. I know a lot of people know the IT crowd here, but like there weren't many people cosplaying the IT crowd at C2E2, you know. So like, give that guy his props, you know. That Christopher had a pretty obscure Power Rangers reference to a guy dressed as the Black Ranger from the 1990s movie. You know, it's like, what does it pick on a frog day? Like, you need to know that movie pretty well, I guess, to get that. But like, by the time the guy's dressed up as the ninja version from the alien planet is the frog, like when that got sort of shouted in his direction, he laughed a lot because he loved that movie. So it was lots of that sort of fun, you know, like just enjoying the people, because I could have spent a fortune. But what was funny was Chris was just like, oh, I'm buying this, I'm buying this, I'm buying this, I'm buying this. And he came home with so much art. I came back with a couple of things. Where are they? I did come back with... be careful not to drop this. I didn't buy it, and I'm going to regret it forever, but there was some guy who had done like a portrait of Sean Connery in The Hunt for Red October, as a sort of like commemorative thing after Connery had passed away, and it was $20, and I probably should have bought it, but it was just a little too large to carry around. But like this guy did.
Very nice.
So it's he called them his doubles series, and it was actors kind of playing their roles. So I've got a John Wick Neo and a Han Solo Indiana Jones, and they're beautiful. And he had like, you know, Furiosa and oh god, what was the other character? But like he had a few, or Jim Carrey in The Mask and in Dumb and Dumber. He had beautiful posters. I actually might end up buying this stuff online, but like they were A3 or bigger, 11 by 17, and I just couldn't carry that around. Comic books.
You remember the name?
I think I took a card. He signed it, but it's so hard to read.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of them little squiggles. I think I took a card. I'd have to dig it out. But like, it's beautiful, and he was really, really friendly. Like, he was enjoying chatting to us, especially because we'd locked in on these things. Because he was like, I brought these last year and no one was interested, and I was kind of surprised that like they weren't the seller for him. But I'm trying to get a little bit of art up around this unit, because it is pretty serial killer, as I said. So I brought some prints of my own that I was like, oh, I'll, you know, give these to people or whatnot. But like, now that I'm like, there's no art in the walls, I might just, like, I framed a few. I went, you know, picked up a little
nice
Target a pack of 4 frames and whack them in there. I want to get some little sticky dots or double-sided tape to kind of hold them in place. But back to C2E2. C2E2 is where I bought an $11 sandwich. It was nice, but like the queues
not
for
$11 nice.
Yeah, the queues for food were huge, which is what you expect. There was, I'm trying to think of all the cosplay. It was so fun. Like, you just go into the bathroom and just seeing like Arnold Conan, you know, and like the guy had, like, he didn't have Arnold's build, but like he had enough of a build that he was like, it worked. There was a funny stall in Artist's Alley that was just like muscle bear erotica comics, and it was just like, there was just books and books and books with stickers over the penetration on the cover, and just big smiley happy cartoony guys.
Good Lord.
Daisy chained, and just like adults only, adults only, adults only, and a little like George R. Martin guy sitting behind the table, grey beard, and we were like walking past, and he was just like he was announcing it to everybody, but he was just like, if you're over 18, you can look in the books and talk to me.
God.
I was like, you seem nice, but what am I going to talk to you about? Yeah. What do you want me to ask you? You know what you did coming here.
I also don't want to give you the wrong impression by coming to talk to you when I know what you're all about.
Yeah.
Very clearly, you know?
Yeah. I neither want to fuck you nor buy your books about fucking.
You could ask him about his crafts, though, I guess.
I suppose.
Were they good drawings, at least? Like,
yeah. Yeah, no, they were. They were. It wasn't I'll say, the Artist Alley was great. There was just so much to see, and
clearly, an eye-watering amount.
there was very little in terms of that, like. There was very little in terms of like erotica like that. Like that was the only one I saw that would necessitated stickers. There was a lot of like beefcake, Geralt and stuff around, but like you see that everywhere anyway, or you see that sort of fandom stuff. But there was nerd stuff and people selling their comics, and then there was just beautiful graphic art stuff as well, just illustrators doing great fucking art, and it was so lovely to see it. And if it were a different day, I'd have dropped $1,000 walking around that place, you know. But it is the month that it is. It is the period of my life that it is, that I'm just like, I need to make sure that I have money in September.
Something that surprised me, like, obviously the artists are there to make money, and it's one of the ways that they sort of depend on to make money. They probably budget for it throughout the year. You know, I need to make X amount, so I'm going to this convention and I need to make a certain amount here. But I can't remember who it was. It was and it might have been the same convention, but it was an artist kind of posting stuff, and I can't remember who it was. It's maybe one of 3 female illustrators. My point being, anyway, really like her work, selling drawings, and like they look like original drawings for like $100.
Yeah,
which, you know, is kind of a steal. But at the same time, it would be easier for someone like me, if my intention was to buy a bunch of like my favorite artist's work, to kind of buy it maybe once a month. You know, spending €100 maybe once a month on their original artwork. Because otherwise, if I'm going to a convention and I want to buy a lot of people's work, you would end up spending thousands very quickly. I was kind of surprised that they wouldn't price stuff a little cheaper for when it's in person, because otherwise people have to be walking around with, you know, the intention to spend thousands. And I'm sure some people do, but clearly not everybody there can or will. And again, I'm not saying artists shouldn't charge that much. They absolutely should. It was just kind of...
I had a similar thing walking around.
It's an artist who I'm a fan of, and I was like, I'd love to buy some of her stuff. I was like, my God, if I was there...
Yeah.
I'd only be able to buy maybe 3 pieces, like, if, you know, over the whole day, and then that would be a ton of money to spend kind of very quickly.
I had the, like, at one point I walked around, I saw a piece of art and it had $800 listed on it, and I was like, you have to put that price on that to value the work that you've put into it. Mm-hmm. But it's not amazing. It's all right. It is worth that time. You have to put that up there in order to value the rest of your work. But there's no way in fucking hell anybody is ever going to pay you $800 for that piece of work.
Especially at a convention when there's so many other artists there. And it's just like, well, I could buy 8 pieces from, like I said, the artist I just mentioned. You know, I could buy 8 of her pieces, or I could buy 1 of these. And it's just like, well, yeah, you know, that's a kind of an... If I had gone there with that type of budget, that'd be an easy decision for me to kind of make, you know. But yeah,
this week I am not sure what I'm up to. What are you any plans for the week? How's the dog walking? The dog management.
It's good. I don't know if there's anything new to say. Dogs,
but you're enjoying it.
Yeah.
I
usually, you know, I think the most I've taken dogs out is maybe 2 dogs, and I tend to kind of take them for like a 30-minute walk max. But then there was one day this week they were like, oh, maybe you'll take this guy for a longer walk if you wouldn't mind. I was like, long walks and me? I was like, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'd only planned on going for an hour. But I was walking quite slow with him. It's very kind of hyperactive dog, and they need him to chill out a bit. So it was about kind of just tiring him out without overstimulating him. So I was kind of walking a bit slower, And by the time I got back, it was a 2.5 hour walk. And they were like, "Oh my god!" It's like you're alive. That's good. And apparently the dog was very calm for the rest of the day, so they were like, "That's good." It's like you don't necessarily need to go that long, but I did. It was good.
That's good.
Yeah, it's fun. It's just fun to kind of see the different personalities. Like a lot of them are for the same litter, and just very different.
Right.
And then even different breeds of dogs will be best friends. Like there's two dogs. There's a chocolate lab and a golden retriever, and all they do like the whole time is just like kind of really rough playing, but they won't do that with the other dogs. And it's just the two of them, and you're kind of watching it, making sure it doesn't get out of hand. But anytime I break them up for like, if I think they're getting too rough or something, they immediately go back at it. They're especially if the dog that I think maybe isn't enjoying it, will initiate it as soon as I break it up. It's like, okay, I guess he's having fun, so that's fine.
That's great.
Yeah, it's good fun.
So I guess the other thing I can ask you about, and we can kind of finish up on it, is Resident Evil 4. Is that the remake?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, when did that get released?
There's that, and there's the gameplay trailer for Tears of the Kingdom, the latest Legend of Zelda game.
Okay.
Resi 4 remake came out on the 24th of March, I think.
Okay.
I can't remember. It was a Friday. It was Friday last week, whatever date that was. That was the 24th. Yeah, 24th. That seems right. Anyway, that came out. It's great. I've been a fan of the remakes. I think they've done a mostly good job. Resident Evil 3 remake was good, but not as good as the 2 remake. Can kind of dive into why that might be for a variety of reasons. I think there's a kind of a sweet spot with this where you want to update everything that works without changing it too much. And you kind of want to create the version of the game that is in somebody's head, but with modern day kind of presentation and visuals. But then even when you do that, how do you do that without compromising like the core feeling and mechanics of a game? I think 2 did that fantastically. 4 was a kind of a big departure for the series anyway. And in your mind, you're kind of like, just do what you did with 2, but with 4. Everything great about 2, just do that with 4. But it's obviously much more complicated than that. I would say kind of like overall, fantastic. Great success. They really streamlined things that didn't work. Or not things that didn't work, but things that maybe haven't aged as well. But it's great. It looks fantastic. It's it's much more linear than kind of a lot of games I've been playing recently. It's very I finished it in a weekend and I'm already on my second playthrough, and it's just
awesome.
It's good fun. It's really polished. It's just good fun. It's good to play. There's one of the things that isn't so much a criticism of the remake. This is kind of more of an observation playing this stuff, but it wasn't as spooky or as creepy. And maybe that's because I've played the game already. I don't know if you remember what 4 looks like, but it's very grey and brown. Yeah.
Yeah. Not Resident Evil Village, but
not Village, but the one set.
But the one was set in the Village
20 years earlier.
I do remember that.
Like it's very kind of grey and brown, which is of the time, but your mind kind of fills in a lot of the blanks then, because like I remember there's a scene kind of early on in the first one where it suddenly becomes nighttime, which is when a kind of a new enemy type comes out, and it's got this I think it's very much based on, so the enemy type in it is a parasite. It's kind of like a brain parasite, and then there's a visual that's clearly inspired, I would say, from the manga Parasite, which was also the inspiration for T-1000 in Terminator 2.
Okay, the head hole. Yeah.
Yeah.
Junji
Hang on, let me
Ito?
see if I can. No.
No?
1 second.
Okay.
Good guess with Junji Ito. He's probably like the most well-known horror mangaka, but I'm talking about Parasite, which is by Hitoshi Iwaki.
Okay.
It's about a guy that gets a parasite, brain parasite from outer space.
Thank you for positive reinforcement for me knowing a manga thing. Even if it was the wrong manga thing.
No, it was good. It's a good attempt. Like this guy is less well known, but this book is
very influential.
Famous. Well, this book, like I said, so the premise for this, which is a bit of a tangent from Resident Evil 4, premise for this is these parasites from outer space. They arrive on Earth, presumably. They might also have originated from within the Earth. That kind of comes along later. But they worm into people's brains, and then they eat the brain, and they take over the body. But they have shape-shifting abilities, so they can transform the head into a variety of things. They can shapeshift, but one of the things they do is this very famous panel where I'm sure I showed you this back in IADT times. You see that?
Yeah, that's familiar.
You remember that?
Yeah.
So the heads kind of they eat humans, and the head can shapeshift into like a variety of like mouths and blades and stuff like that. In the comic, then one of these parasites tries to get into a kid's brain, but he's wearing headphones, so can't get in through the ear. So it tries to get in through his nose. He sneezes them out. So then it tries to go in by his arm because they mature very quickly. So like once they're out of their cocoon or whatever, the parasite will mature, so it needs to get to its location. So it goes into his arm and it wakes him up. So he kind of puts a tourniquet around his upper arm so it can't travel any further, and it ends up maturing in his arm. So now he's got this parasite living in his right hand. So now he is kind of living with this parasite. It doesn't eat his brain, and now his hand can transform into like basically T-1000, all these kind of bladed weapons. And supposedly that is where Cameron admitted that that's where he got the idea for T-1000. And then some 20 odd years later, the enemy type in Resident Evil 4 is also a brain parasite. But when it switches to nighttime, the parasite can't be exposed to bright lights and things, but at nighttime it can come out. But there's a scene in the game early on when it's eventually nighttime and you've been kind of playing for 4 or 5 hours and you're used to shooting the bad guys in the head, and getting the headshot and then moving on, and that being the end of it. But there's a point in the game where you shoot them in the head and the head explodes, and suddenly there's this like bladed tentacle swirling around. And I remember screaming the first time that happened. And obviously that was 18 years later now. It was less scary, but some of it was, I think some of the mood was more effective because the visuals were a bit more limited. We've got these kind of just very dark grays and browns and things, whereas in this it's much more photorealistic. So that was one observation I had, is that it's definitely more grotesque because, like I said, the visuals are kind of photorealistic, but there was something a little less, for me anyway, atmospheric about it.
Right.
It lost it in places, but
overall they did a good job, and
they did a fantastic
twice,
and even like things like the opening scene where you're kind of approaching a farmhouse, that's way more atmospheric than it was in the original.
Right.
I don't know if you've ever seen the side-by-sides comparisons, but you kind of get out of a car and you approach a house. They've updated that, and it is so much better in the remake. So there's parts of it that are just well elevated beyond. But that's it. I wouldn't kind of want them to change anything. Because it was great. It was like 4 is fantastic, and they've updated it without changing too much, without spoiling things. They've trimmed it down a bit, and it's great fun. I'm really, really happy with it, and they're presumably going to continue remaking them. But 5 was set in Africa. 6 was like a Gears of War clone. It was a real low point.
Okay.
Became an action shooter rather than a kind of a survival horror thing. And then they rebooted it with 7, which was from the first person perspective, and then 8 was Village. So it's a question of which ones are they going to remake next, because pretty soon they'll be up to the point
current ones
with the most current ones. With 2, 3, and 4, you kind of want them to remake it without changing too much.
Yeah.
Just updating it. But 5 was a bit more. 5 is where it started to get a bit too action heavy. It felt a bit like Uncharted in places.
Are there people that love that though?
You see, I like 5. But what I would say is if they are going to remake 5 or 6, I think these are the ones where they should take a bit of license and change a lot, With 2, 3, and 4, we just kind of want an update of them. With 5 and 6, I would say change them to bring them more in line with the new remakes, rather than like if they remake 5, change a lot of it, make it a bit more less action oriented, bring back some of the kind of creepy horror stuff. Even though I did enjoy 5, there was a lot of stuff they removed from 5 which didn't make sense, like the merchant for weapon upgrades and stuff in 4 was, I think, was pretty much everybody's favorite part of the game. And then they removed him from 5, and then your weapon upgrade is just a thing you do just in menu yourself.
Right.
Like, well, why would they take that out? So if they do remake, they're presumably going to remake one of them next. But will it be Code Veronica, which was like Dreamcast game, or will it be 5, which kind of chronologically came next? I think they'll do Code Veronica next, though, because. But we'll see. They haven't. I mean, it's only been a week.
They've just put one out. You're on to them to do the next one already.
Yeah. Check them out if you've been thinking about playing them. You probably already have. If you've been.
All right. Well, I think I'm going to try and head out into the world.
8 a.m. now. Shazam!